Hey everyone, I'm Mike from theparkprodigy.com, and on today's video, we're going to break down if Universal Orlando is worth it for adults. And this is, of course, such an interesting topic to cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm really going to break this down just for adults who are, thinking about planning a trip to Universal Orlando without kids, and then, of course, families who are going over to Universal Orlando who, might not be as familiar with the theme parks, and they're trying to figure out like, hey, I'm taking my kids to these theme parks. Like, what is there for me to also enjoy? So we're going to try to cover this a couple different ways. So if you are in the process of planning a Universal Orlando trip, just be sure to stick around until the end of this video. As always, I am very excited, so let's go get started. Thank you again so much for checking out this video. Like I said, we are about to break down and try to help you figure out if Universal Orlando is worth it for adults, specifically you if you are an adult and you're watching this video. We're helping you try to figure out if Universal Orlando is worth it or not. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to cover pretty much just like, hey, like I wrote down like my general thoughts on what would be appeasing to me as an adult visiting Universal Orlando. And there's a lot of stuff that I love about the theme parks. Of course, I didn't start the Park Prodigy for no reason. I grew up loving the theme parks, still love going with my family and friends. So there's just so much cool, fun stuff going on that I think a lot of folks just they might not understand, or they overlook it, right? But in a nutshell, here are some of the coolest things that I think you will enjoy over at Universal Orlando specifically. Of course, we are starting with the main focal point, and that is, of course, the thrill rides. Now, Universal Orlando, more so than over at Disney, does have an emphasis on the thrill rides. They do a very, very good job of just, bringing us the thrill rides that we do love. And of course, if you are an adult and you love, going to your local theme park, whether it might be, Six Flags, whatever it might be, to go on the roller coasters, you're really, really going to love Universal Orlando. And so this next point I think is really, really important, not only just for adults who are thinking about visiting Universal Orlando without kids, but also, families with kids, and let's specifically with, older kids. There's just less planning that goes into a Universal Orlando trip. And what I personally find is that allows families to kind of, just take those last minute trips if they, just want to get away for the weekend, right? And that's another really, really important thing to mention as well, is that you can do a lot at Universal Orlando in a shorter amount of time. And I think that fits perfectly with those last minute trips, or, even 2 months away. 2 months away, in my opinion, it could be a last minute trip, right? Especially compared to Disney, with the amount of planning that goes into a Disney vacation. You can say, okay, hey, we're going to go to Universal Orlando for 3 days, and you'll get a ton done, right? And the other important thing to keep in mind too is there's not as much planning for dining reservations. There's not as much planning for Disney Genie Plus. It's just an easier vacation, and I think for families, again, without kids, where you have that flexibility where you don't have to worry about school or stuff like that. Very, very simple vacation to plan. Short amount of time. Get in 3 days, get out. Boom, you're done. Same thing, families with kids, right? If you just overwhelmed, there's a lot going on, and you just know you want to go and have a great family vacation where everyone has fun, you can go and you can plan a great vacation at Universal Orlando without as much planning over at Disney, especially if you team up with a company like the Park Prodigy. I mean, we'll pretty much do all of the planning for you. You could pretty much just show up and have an amazing time. But that's the little shameless plug. First shameless plug of the video right there. But we would love to help you if you are in the process of planning a trip. Moving on to the next one, specifically for adults who do not have kids, right? You can go and you can visit the Universal Orlando theme parks when they are less crowded. And again, during the slower times of year, Universal Orlando will be less crowded than, let's say, over at Disney. So that could be a great benefit that you could take advantage of. The other really, really cool thing that I will say, and this is a tip for families with kids, specifically with, let's say, older kids, right? Because as the kids get older, the normal progression is usually, you hit the Disney parks, and then as the kids get older, you start going over and hitting the Universal Orlando parks. Now, the cool thing about Universal Orlando, again, that I will say with older kids, is that because the parks are closer to the hotels, and because Universal Orlando is just smaller in general than Disney, it makes for a very, very easy vacation to hop into the parks, hop out back at the hotel. And once the kids get older and you don't have to worry about, strollers and, bringing the baby bags with the diapers and stuff like that, you can really start to move quickly through the theme parks. And Universal Orlando really is perfect for that, as opposed to Disney, where the parks are a little bit more spread out. And again, if you have young kids, you know that there's just a lot that goes into planning, and it's a lot to go from one park to another, especially when you have the strollers and stuff like that. This could be a great way for you to get a lot done, again, like I keep saying, in a short amount. And then we're hopping in, and this is really for my older adults who might not, really like to go on as many rides, but they do just want to go and they want to get into the theme parks and have some fun. But they don't want to do a lot of walking. Again, same thing, that the Universal Orlando parks are smaller. Everything's closer together, so it's not as much walking as, let's say, over at the Disney parks. And then moving over to this next one, and this one is really, really, really popular. And of course, Universal Orlando has Halloween Horror Nights, which, if you are into Halloween and if you're just trying to get into the Halloween spirit, this is going to be a little bit more intense than, let's say, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which is the Disney version of their Halloween party. Everyone loves Halloween Horror Nights. I mean, it is really such an amazing event. And of course, this could be a great, great reason if you are an adult to plan a Universal Orlando trip. And then last but not least, if you're a millennial like me, I mean, we pretty much grew up on Harry Potter, right? And even more so now, like, you still love it. If you grew up loving it, you still gonna love it forever, right? Universal Orlando has the Wizarding World of Harry Potter within their parks. And if you are a fan, if you are someone who grew up reading the books, if you watch the movies, right, you're going to want to go and you're going to want to experience this for yourself, because it really is that amazing. And those are some of just the quick little, tidbits in my mind that really will make a Universal Orlando vacation worth it for adults. But we're going to continue to dive in. We're going to jump in and really look at some of the most popular questions that we receive at the Park Prodigy regarding, planning trips or just making sure that there's stuff, for the adults in your family to do. So first and foremost, right, we spoke quickly on the rides, but when we start to really break down, a lot of folks might be wondering, like, hey, what are the best parks for me to visit as an adult? And what we're going to do is we're actually going to break this down two ways, right? We discussed the rides, and what I would say is, if you plan to go to Universal Orlando and rides are the most important thing for you as an adult, you really, really want to go over to Islands of Adventure Park. In my opinion, it has the better thrill rides, it has more thrill rides, and I think that there will just be more for you to do at that park. If you are an older adult, right, and you're saying, hey, I don't want to go on that many rides, I don't want to walk a lot, more so in this for the shows and just to be in the park, for the entertainment, then you're going to want to go to Universal Studios Florida, because that park is really geared towards the movies. It doesn't have a ton of shows, right? Like, it's not going to be crazy shows every which way, but it has more shows that you can really, really enjoy. And if you want a little bit more info on that, we actually have a video on all the shows at Universal Orlando that you could take a look at. I'll leave a link in the show notes to that. But that's how I would break it down: rides, Islands of Adventure, shows, Universal Studios Florida. And then, of course, one of the other really, really important things to keep in mind is, in my opinion, Universal has the best water park for adults. My opinion is it's actually the best water park in all of Orlando, in Volcano Bay. So that could be another great thing for you guys to take advantage of during your Universal Orlando trip. But we're going to jump in and we're going to break down just some of the top rides that you'll want to check out as an adult visiting Universal Orlando. And of course, like I said, we are going to start with Islands of Adventure, just because, in my opinion, that has the best rides for adults. In a number one, we do have Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. At number two, we have the Velocicoaster. At number three, we have the Incredible Hulk Coaster. We have the Amazing Adventure of Spider-Man, Dr. Doom's Fearful, and then the Jurassic Park River Adventure. Don't forget, over at Islands of Adventure, in my opinion, it has the two best rides to use for early park admission, which is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure and the Velocicoaster. And then over in Islands of Adventure Park, for all my fans who are visiting the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, we do have Hogsmeade Village. Now, the other important thing to keep in mind is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is split between the two main parks. So again, if you are an adult visiting specifically for Harry Potter, you'll want to plan accordingly and make sure that you give yourself enough time to visit both of the parks. And then moving over to Universal Studios Florida, some of the top thrill rides that come to mind are going to be Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, Revenge of the Mummy, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, Fast and the Furious Supercharged, Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon, and Transformers The Ride. Oh, and we can't forget The Simpsons. It's another big area. Springfield, USA, another huge area for all of my millennials and adults visiting Universal Orlando. Now, what I would say for my adults visiting Universal Orlando is, if you get motion sickness, make sure that you bring Dramamine, especially over at Universal Studios Florida, because a lot of the rides will be motion simulators. I get motion sickness, so Some of the rides I'll skip, depending on who I'm with. But it's just another good tip and trick. Bring Dramamine. Typically, it will help me, and I can kind of get through the day. But, of course, that's just one of those things about growing up in life that they don't tell you about as a kid. Some of the other really, really cool things that I will say to keep an eye out for. Over in Universal Studios Florida, specifically for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, we do have Diagon Alley. Now, for Wizarding World of Harry Potter, one of my favorite things that I really, really love about this, specifically, this is really, an adult thing in the theme parks, is that both of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter lands have bars in them. They are themed bars, but they do have kind of specially themed adult beverages. So they have specific beer that's kind of geared and themed after the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which I really, really love, and that's something that you guys could potentially enjoy. The other important thing to keep in mind, kind of talking about adult beverages and stuff like that. Universal does have Universal City Walk, which really does also have some really, really cool bars and restaurants. My opinion, me just being very, very honest, if I had to pick for, let's just say, if you're looking for a nice restaurant or something like that, if I had to pick between Universal City Walk and Disney Springs, I personally would always go with Disney Springs. Disney Springs, though, is, again, going to be a little bit more, family friendly. Nothing wrong with that, but Universal City Walk is going to be more so like bars and clubs and stuff like that. Not like crazy, like if you grow up in a big city, it's something, that's not going to be like Vegas type clubs or bars. But just they have multiple places for you guys to kind of hang out late. Many of the places are open till 2 a.m. So, you could see just a lot of stuff for adults to do. And from a restaurant standpoint, I guess is what I'm trying to say, I would always lean towards Disney Springs. Another question that we do get a lot is, what is the best Universal Orlando hotel for adults? And so the way I would break this down is, if I was going with a premier resort, my opinion is Portofino Bay is the best hotel for adults visiting Universal Orlando. I think it has like the charm of the Italian Riviera. I think it's, just like, especially those romantic getaways, if you're planning a honeymoon to Universal, like anything like that, I would go with the Portofino Bay. I just think it is the top choice for adults visiting Universal Orlando. Another great hotel that I personally love, it's typically where I'll stay, is Universal Sapphire Falls Resort. I think that's a great choice for adults visiting Universal Orlando. And then another one in the value tier would be Universal's Adventura Resort. I would pretty much say in that order, those are the best hotels for adults who are visiting Universal Orlando. And then another really, really important question that we do get is, what's the average cost of, let's just say, 2 adults who are visiting Universal Studios Florida? And so what we would say here is ballpark. I would say you're looking at a value resort. You're probably looking all in around $1,700 to $2,200, depending on the type of value resort that you pick. And that would essentially include a 3-day ticket and a 4-night stay. As you get over to the premier resorts, your price could potentially go up, but you'll see it's a lot more affordable at Universal Orlando than it is at Walt Disney World. I would say too, the other cool thing is, let's say if you are looking for the classy hotel like the premier resorts, you also get the free express pass. So that could be another great way. If you're coming in for 2 to 3 days and you're just trying to get as much done as possible, that express pass really, really will help you do that. And of course, getting it for free by staying at one of the Universal Orlando Premier Resorts is a great plus. And so that is it, everyone. That's the little quick guide. That's me trying to pretty much convince you that Universal Orlando is worth it for adults. Of course, don't forget Halloween Horror Nights is an amazing event. Universal Mardi Gras in March is an amazing event. There's just so much stuff going on. There's a lot for adults to do in the theme parks. I'm probably going to do a video, same thing, over at Disney, because even, Universal has a lot of the rides, right? But Disney has a lot of really, really fun stuff, especially if you're a foodie. You'll love going over to Disney. I guess that would be the next video we do. If you are an adult, like I said, visiting Universal, I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have not been to the theme parks before and you don't know where to start, you just need a little additional help, just be sure to go check out our website, theparkprodigy.com, or subscribe to our channel, as we have a lot more similar videos just like this coming out in the coming weeks. But I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all again so much for checking out this video. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.